Welcome to the next video in the fleetform.net series on site usage. For today's demonstration, we're going to move into routing and create some Eigrp configs. As with other videos, I've created a network diagram of what we're going to build today. So let's go ahead and get to it. As usual, we'll begin by logging in. Right, there we go. Now, as we can see, what we're going to be doing today is configuring two routers and one layer 3 switch to participate in Eigrp. We're adding some loopbacks at each of the, a loopback for each of the devices. We're going to configure some servers. We'll configure a workstation subnet, and once again, we'll configure some DHCP. So without further delay, we'll start with router 1 here. This is the first time in our series that we're venturing away from a Cisco layer 3 switch. So what we're going to do is start by configuring a Cisco router. Now, most of the fields look identical, so let's go ahead and configure this. So we're going to call this router 1. There's no internet, no DNS, so I'm just going to go ahead and just fill this part in for the basic config, since we've already discussed that in previous videos. I'll make an account that we'll add. Now, for router 1 on our physical interfaces, as you can see, we've got 2. And we've got one loopback. So let's go ahead and start building that out. So gig 00, GI00 is to router 2. It's got an IP address of 10.0.4.1 with a /30 mask, so 255.255.255.252. We've also got gig 01 to switch 1, with an IP address of 10.0.4.5. Same /30 mask. And we have a loopback address 192.168.0.1. Finally, for this guy, we just need to configure Eigrp. So we need to advertise all 3 of those networks, all 3 of those subnets in Eigrp. Let's go ahead and set the loopback to be our, let's go ahead and set the router ID to be our loopback IP. And we'll add our 3 subnets. We've got 192.168.0.1 as our loopback, right? And that is going to be a /32 mask, inverse mask. We've got 10.0.4.0. 252 inverse mask is 0.0.0.3. We've also got 10.0.4.4. Same inverse mask. That should be about all we need to get our Eigrp configuration up and running. So let's go ahead and copy this config. Right, there we go. Let's grab him. Once again, I have my console inner connections open, so we just did router 1. As you can see, this router has no config, it's brand new. So we'll exit our system configuration dialog. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and jump over and do the same thing for router 2, save a little bit of time in the future. Wait for this guy to finish up. Okay, great. So let's do config T, paste this config in. Just like that, we've got router 1 done. Now, let's go work on router 2. Here's the great part about FleetForm making your configurations even faster, right? All I need to do is change a couple of things. Let's change our router 1 to router 2, right? When I design networks, I try to use the same interfaces going to the same places for each device. So we've also got gig 00 as our first interface. Now all I have to do is change this. He's going to router 1. And his IP is not .1, but it's .2. Now for gig 1, it's also going to switch 1, just has a different IP. So this is 10.04.9. Same mask. Now, for Eigrp, might as well keep the same process. Let's change our router ID to be the loopback here, which reminds me, I did forget to change the loopback IP, didn't I? Yes. So let's change that to .2 for router 2. We still are going to advertise the 00 subnet. Or, I'm sorry, change the loopback subnet to host to .2. We're still going to advertise the 10.0.40 network with an inverse mask of 3. Here, though, we need to change. Instead of doing 4.4, we're going to advertise 4.8. And we'll update that config. And guess what? Just that quick, we've done our second configuration, right? Standardized. So outside of the host name, the subnets and the IPs, like everything else stays the same, and it's just that quick. No need to enter it twice. So if we go back to our router 2, enter this config. Seeing interfaces come up. Already having Eigrp adjacency. So let's go work on switch 1. Now while doing switch 1, don't forget we need to change back to a layer 3 switch and update our config there. Now on our switch 1, our interface 1, as we can see from the diagram, E00, it's going to router 1. IP is 10.0.4.6. Mask still correct. E01 is to router 1. Sorry, router 2. And his IP is 10.0.4.10. Right? And while we're on this page, let's not forget to change our loopback. Okay. Takes care of our interfaces. We'll come back for the VLAN and the client interfaces. Let's take care of get routing configured quick. Now for Eigrp, we're going to do 10. We'll go ahead and put our loopback as our router ID. Now, we're going to advertise. We're not going to advertise 192.168.0.2. We're going to advertise 0.3, right? Our networks are going to be 10.0.4.4 and 10.0.4.8. We also eventually want to advertise our VLANs 20 and 30, so we can put those subnets in, which is 10.0.2 and 10.0.3, both /24. which would be 000.255, and 3.0. And that looks pretty good for Eigrp. Now, let's come back up. We'll make our VLANs. We need to add VLAN 20 and VLAN 30, which we've done in previous videos. So 20 is servers. And for an IP address, 10.0.2.1 /24. VLAN 30 is workstations. That's 10.0.3.1 222.550. And that takes care of our VLANs. Now finally all we need to do is do our physical interfaces. So our map indicates E02-3. Once again, we're going to use our range command. 2 to 3 servers. Whatever you wish to call it. It's going to be an access port in VLAN 20. And we have range E1-0 to 1, right? Workstations on VLAN 30. Okay, so that takes our interfaces. The final part. Let's make a DHCP scope for our workstations. I always like to exclude a few addresses just in case, so I'll exclude 1 through 9. So our first host is going to get a .10. It's going to be on VLAN 30, so 10.0.3.0. Our mask is, as we said, 222.5.5. And our gateway is going to be the IP on the layer 3 switch, which we configured to be 10.0.3.1. Copy this config. Paste them in. And we should be off and running. Do some verifications. So we see our interfaces come up. We'll need to see our, well, there's our Eigrp adjacencies. We also still need to see our VLANs come up. And then we can know, we can check our VLANs. But let's see what happens if I do a show IP route. Look at that, I've got the loopbacks from the other routers. So let's try a ping while our VLANs are coming up. That's ping router 1 from loopback of switch 1. So from loopback to loopback, our routing's looking good. And we have our VLANs 20 and 30 up. So let's go do a little bit of testing. On our server, I believe my command, I don't think I set an IP yet, so let's go ahead and do that. 10.0.2.10, let's start there. 2.10/24, and the gateways, see if I got that format right. Excellent. Ping in this gateway, that's outstanding. Now for our workstation, we should be able to just pull a DHCP address from our switch. There's our offer. Acknowledged. Now we should be able to ping, certainly at least ping our workstation, or servers, sorry. There's 2.10, right on. And this is a good time to bring up the fact, as I indicated, these configs can be complete, right? We have a absolute network that's routing here. But one thing that Fleeform.net was never intended to do was fully replace the need for an absolutely complete config, right? Just get the basics in far quicker than you would have otherwise, so that you can spend the rest of your time doing customizing, right? You might not want your workstations to be able to ping the loopbacks of all the routers, right? So a couple of easy to implement access lists or whatever security mechanisms you'd want could work. But I just wanted to point that out. This was, like I said, a great starting point. So as you can see, though, we have built this entire network, all 3 switches, in approximately 10 minutes. So as always, I appreciate you watching. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I welcome your feedback. Feel free to reach out. All right. Take care. Have a great day. And so long.